It is March 2022, and I'm writing an article about a book that I really, really liked. A year later and a half, I'm rereading this article that I deleted off of my blog, and I would like to share with you guys the information that was in this. So, the book, if you're wondering, is Deep Work by Cal Newport. I read this book about a year and a half ago, and I can say this book genuinely changed my life. And not in the way of the senses, not in the sense that, it actually gave me some more action. It just gave me more perspective on the ideas of doing deep work. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you guys my 3 main takeaways from the blog that I wrote a couple years ago, or a year and a half ago, and I'm going to kind of go over some of my changes in thought over the last year and a half from this, and then see what I can draw upon from this. So it starts off by saying this. Good morning. In this issue, I'll be discussing my key takeaways from the book Deep Work by Cal Newport. Number 1, the importance of breaks. I really think taking breaks is so important. I don't think anyone in their right mind should be working 8 hours straight. If you can, by all means do it. But like any regular human being, like me and you, I don't think we should be doing that. And why do you say that? Like, we're meant to work, but are we meant to work 10 hours straight without taking a break at all? Like, I mean, you literally sitting here. Like, say if I made a 10-hour video, would you sit here for 10 hours and watch this video straight and you don't stop? Like, you don't go eat, you don't go do anything like that. None of it. You just sit here. No, you probably wouldn't. 99% of people watching this, including you, would not do that. Taking breaks is important. This is what I said. Towards the end of the book, he talks about how breaks are important and how one shouldn't be trying to do work with depth for all hours of the day. Keep in mind the word depth. This is because a professional at going deep can only sustain this for about 4 hours. Now, 4 hours is really close to what Andrew Huberman says. If you guys know Andrew Huberman, he's a neuroscientist, pretty sure at the University of Stanford. He has the Huberman Lab podcast, and he says that on one of his little blogs about increasing your focus, he says that a person can only do about 270 minutes, which equates to about 4.5 hours of deep work per day. And that's just deep work, 4.5 hours of it. I'm assuming he expects the majority of the people reading his books to be beginners of this principle. With that being said, what I recommended someone doing at the beginning is should only attempt about 1 to 2 hours of deep work daily. And when I say 2 hours of deep work, I mean within a 1 session period. So I would say that if you're, let the camera focus. Oh, my camera's not focusing. Okay. I would say that if you're doing deep work trying to do deep work, you should split it into 2 sessions. Or at least split it up. An hour and a half session once, another hour and a half session later, and another hour and a half session later. You could do that. Honestly, you can kind of do the research yourself and figure out what you think will work for you. But from my own experience, I think that if you're doing like a writing piece, do like about an hour and a half. I'm kind of trying to test this with myself. And then if you're studying or doing something for school, I believe it should be about 50 minutes of consistent like work if you're doing like studying or something like that, and then kind of take a break for like 5 to 10 minutes and then come back. But from what I can picture in my head, anyone doing this, 2 hours, and then within that you do 50-minute blocks, and then you take like a 5 to 10 minute break in between the 50 minutes, and then you stop, do something else, rest a little bit, go outside, spend time in nature, come back in, do a little bit more. That's my idea of it. Andrew Huberman also talks about in his videos the idea of ultradian cycles. Ultradian cycles are when you're at your peak of focus. They're about 90-minute periods, and it's like a little thing. You go up. Let me see if I can get this in the camera. So you go up, and then it goes down, and then in this period right here, there's like a 20-minute window where you're like at the lowest. So basically, you increase your focus. You're at the peak of your focus, and it drops down, and then once it drops down, You have 20 minutes period until it's about to increase back up, and it happens all days throughout the day. So no matter what, there is a cycle going on, whether it be in your body, whether it be on the earth. There are cycles going on all the time. You have the circadian rhythm. That's a cycle. Your sleep cycle. The sun and the earth always revolving. There's connections between this stuff. Number 2, scheduling in deep work. He talks about four different types of philosophies for how people do deep work. And now everyone can have their own different philosophy, but these are the ones that he found to be relatively consistent with what he saw in the book. And the four main ones, keep putting up 3. 4 main ones were monastic, bimodal, rhythmic, and journalistic. So right now I'm going to go ahead and explain to you what these 4 models of deep work are. So the first one is monastic. These people eliminate shallow tasks from their lives in pursuit of only deep work tasks. I typically see this in a CEO of a company, and where they would just completely try to eliminate all the tasks that are just very menial, and they give that to other people that are lower level, I would say, and then they're doing all the tasks. Now, writers do this as well. In the book, he talks about a writer who did that, and he doesn't do email or anything like that. That's monastic. That's the only thing you do is focus work. Monastic like focus. Bimodal. These people do deep work on random, but for certain periods. They might go weeks on end. Doing deep work, then stopping for months. Bimodal was a thing I remember. He's talking about Bill Gates and how he does think weeks. If you guys know Bill Gates, he's an entrepreneur. Pretty sure everyone should know who Bill Gates is. He owns Microsoft, practically owns the computer I'm using. Know Bill Gates. He basically does these think weeks every year where he just goes off into a cabin in the woods and then he just thinks for an entire week. That's where he's going to do his monastic focus for a week, and then he comes back and goes back to the busy world. So it's a way for him to think a little bit more, hence the name Think Week. Next one is rhythmic. These people schedule deep work every day at nearly the same time. I think if anyone's starting out, I feel you should do this. And then the next one I'm going to talk about is the one I feel most people, the 2 at the very bottom are the ones I feel most people should do. Rhythmic. These people schedule deep work every day at nearly the same time. So if you say that if you're at work, right, and you know that you have meetings at this time and this time, you can schedule really deep focused work during that work and during work and do that during that period. I think that's what you should do. If you have work or if you have school and you have a very consistent time where you get home and you have this free time here, do that. The next one is journalistic. These people find random stretches of downtime during their day and use this for deep work. This is the same thing with, I think rhythmic and journalistic go hand in hand, and that's why I say probably you should do it as well, because it consists of finding time during the day, disciplining yourself to say, okay, I have this open free period time here, and then potentially scheduling it every day, or somehow finding a little rhythm right there. So rhythmic and journalistic, finding different pockets of time within your schedule to do that specific task. The importance of depth. That's what I wrote. This is very important because if one does not have at least a little depth in their work, they won't be able to achieve it as effectively or efficiently. He talks about the impact of depth on business can be easily measured, but just because it is the case, it doesn't mean that a solo person won't benefit from this principle. So the value of depth and how deep you're working, how focused you are, it can't really be measured because, really the only things that can be measured in terms of a real business sense and even work in general is your input and then your output. But what you will notice is that the outputs will change the deeper you go. The outputs will change the deeper you go. The outputs will change the deeper you go. Repeat it with me. The outputs will change the deeper you go into your work. So I'm giving an example here. If you're doing math work and at the start of you started the school year, you are doing math and you're doing it 2 hours a day and you're really focused, you're practicing. At the start, you're on your phone all the time, you're listening to music with lyrics, or you're just period listening to music in general. And you sit there, okay, you're not as focused. You get some stuff done, you still get the work done. Okay, then the next day you say, okay, crap, let me not listen to music. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to not do that. I'm not going to listen to music. I'm not going to talk to my friends while I'm working. I'm going to just focus for 2 hours. what you're going to notice is that you're going to get done at least twice the amount that you would have. And I'm not even going to say a specific number because I feel like somebody's going to quote me and put in the comment section, oh, you said twice the amount and I tracked it. I didn't get twice done. Just know you're going to get more done. No matter what that is, because everyone has a different level of depth in terms of what they get done. But just notice you will start to get more done the deeper you go into your work. Just know that. So if you guys are interested in Deep Work by Cal Newport, I recommend that you guys read this book. This book is phenomenal, especially if you're starting out. And if you really don't want to read it, I definitely would recommend looking up a YouTube video on the summaries of especially some of the main points on this as well. And yeah, go support Cal Newport. He's a really good author. If you're in school, I recommend you read his books. Do what you want with this information and have a good week.